It's a grisly scene down here. The low, dark ceiling hangs over a dingy floor, lit only by a few torches and oil lamps hanging on the walls. It's damp, the concrete floor dirty. Stretching out among the pillars before me like small white crosses marking graves are hundreds of bodies. There's easily room for 1,000. It's an orderly apocalypse, rows and rows of corpses, most of them covered with white sheets. Some have little piles beside them, a girl's body next to some school books, a watch and keys next to an old man, a baby beside a young woman. Soldiers keep bringing the corpses in, dropping them on the concrete floor with a dull flop, leaving them to be washed and laid out in the hopes that someone will be able to identify them. Nurses come with the white sheets. Others walk around with clipboards compiling a list of the dead, noting their age, race, sex, and any other possessions around them. A woman asks me if she can help. She's maybe 20, blonde hair tied back, pretty in her starched uniform, but drained by her work. I'm looking for my wife, I tell her. Name? I say it, and she checks her clipboard, then shakes her head. My heart stops. She's not on my list, but then most of them, she waves her hand over the dead. We don't know who they are. I notice other people down in this Hades. An old man in a clean shirt and tie, leaning on his grandson, limps from one body to the next. At each one they stop, and the young man pulls back the sheet. The old man stoops, takes a long look, shakes his head. The boy replaces the sheet and moves on. Collapsed souls searching broken bodies. Why the school? I asked the nurse. The morgues were full hours ago, she explains. We got thousands of soldiers and sailors collecting the dead, and they need somewhere to bring them. They learned how to prepare after the Titanic went down a few years ago, and all those bodies came to Halifax. The man who oversaw that, he's overseeing today's recovery. I nod in the gloom, so that's the scale of it. A poor man's Titanic. A whole city sunk, and no lifeboats. Where do I start? I ask the nurse. A tear sneaks down her cheek. She rubs it away. I don't know, she says, and turns from me. She kneels at a sheet, pulls it back, notes the details of the newly dead. I stand there for a long time, watching the old man's progress. Tears are running down his tired, wrinkled face. His bottom lip is quivering. With each revealed body, he lets out a trembling sigh, contemplating the scarred face on behalf of humanity, before signaling for the boy to cover it. It's like he's channeling the grief for the dead. His hands are shaking badly. Crying over the burns of one dead girl, the old man pushes tears off his face. Eventually he finds her. With a sharp howl, he collapses before his grandson can catch him. The old man drapes himself over the dead woman, his body shaking with sobs. His grandson tries to comfort, tries to pull his grandfather off the body. He looks around, desperate for help. A nurse slowly makes her way to the trio, clipboard in hand. I sigh, begin my own descent into the underworld. I'm halfway down the first line when a body opposite me shocks the place by standing up. It does it quickly, all in one motion, as the sheet falls to the floor and this bewildered corpse of a middle-aged man missing half its leg is standing there, shivering like it's the bottom of the Arctic Ocean. It's got a cloth wrapped around its head and blood all over its face. "What?" it starts to say, but that turns into a scream. It's shaking and people are just staring at it when it falls over. This breaks the spell and the nurses rush to the resurrected man, surrounding him in a scrum. He keeps making that awful noise, but the nurses soothe him. "Where's my leg?" he screams, his arm searching desperately for it. "What's going on here?" demands an army doctor, suddenly on the scene. The nurses clear back, and the doctors kneel beside the violently convulsing man. The doctor takes his pulse, as though it's not clear if he's alive, and shakes his head. "Get him to the hospital straight away," he says to the four soldiers. They grab the sheet that the man was under and roll him onto it. They lift it up like it's a stretcher and double-time him up the stairs. Now, it's really quiet. I can hear water dripping somewhere. The whole basement is paralyzed, distrustful of the dead. One of the nurses lets out a nervous laugh. "Anybody else have anything to say?" a young soldier asks. More unsettled laughter. More soldiers come tromping down the stairs, carrying more dead, and hell resumes its business. I get back to work. I feel drunk and I haven't slept in 16 hours. I see a wisp of brown hair coming out of the next sheet, and vomit rises in my throat, but I stop it. It's her. I can see through the sheets, see Evie's face, mouth twisted in a final smile, eyes open but closed, never to see me again, never to forgive, and I want to kill everyone in the morgue for leaving her here on the cold floor. I fall on her screaming and sobbing, and there's a clatter of feet, and the soldiers are back, but not touching me. I howl and pull back the sheet. It's not her. It doesn't look anything like her. I'm hyperventilating now, and the nurse I grabbed earlier is calming me. "Is this your wife?" she keeps saying, and I'm gasping for air, my heart thudding wildly. The nurse catches my eyes, pulls me down. I watch her chest, match my breathing to her lungs, and she holds my hand, stroking the back of it. "She's in a better place," the nurse says, fingering the silver cross around her neck. I want to protest, but I've got no air. "Not mine," I finally manage to gasp. I repeat it a few times before the nurse catches on. For a second, she's angry, like I'm wasting her short reserves of empathy, but then she gives me a tired smile. "Sir, you've looked at all of the bodies," she says, stroking my cheek. "Your wife isn't here. Maybe she's waiting for you outside. Try the hospitals, or with friends and family outside of Richmond." The nurse helps me stand, holds my arm as I stumble toward the stairs. I climb up, leaning heavily on the banister. We flatten ourselves into the side when a group of soldiers brings another body down. I don't even look at it. I can't imagine the sun ever rising again, so I just need to keep believing Evie is alive until this day ends, stopping the universe with it. I'll stop there.